Unification Party headquarters, co-host Adrian. Here
Hi,
we
everybody.
are. Uh, Adrian, tell us what's happening Canadian politics today.
Well, since we last spoke, there's been some interesting updates. I would say the biggest one that I'm going to start talking about is quote unquote Button Gate. So supposedly, Jay, have you heard anything about Button Gate? Like regarding
Well,
the
I heard
fake?
some Trump paraphernalia may have been slipped into tables, and it's a coordinated attack to
Yeah,
malign the conservatives.
it seems like it's clearly that, and but not. It's just that the question more comes down to like how coordinated would be the real right because like obviously like initially it started with like two people at a bar, the supposed people who did it, the liberal campaign staffers were overheard by a reporter, and it was at a bar in Ottawa. And so right away you have two people, that's two people just up to something, that's a collusion. So let alone now the repercussions of it, supposedly they were just reassigned. So there was actually a pretty good, like similar to last episode where I sorted the sourced the CBC and gave them some credit. There was a pretty good take from the CBC on it. I'm just going to share that with you now. It's 2 minutes. I'll increase the speed so it maybe won't take a whole 2 minutes. But let's actually, here it is. Sorry, my apologies. But more or less, like the lady that they're talking to, she kind of ends with like, well, like if they were just reassigned, it kind of leads to the fact of that they actually, you know what, that's the wrong clip. But basically, she it's Lisa Raitt. She used to be a Conservative Party member, and she's being interviewed about it. And the CBC's panel is not too happy about the scandal. And her takeaway is like, since they were just reassigned, it kind of infers that this came from higher up, which is I thought was a pretty reasonable, like, okay, but again, like that's just conspiratorial or whatever. But nonetheless, she's just pontificating, like she's been in politics, like she was a former PC member. So from a guy who hasn't been in politics, I would have to kind of take her word that that inference is there. Would you not agree with that?
Well, what exactly did the button say? Like, what exactly happened? Let's start with
That
that.
that I do have, and I'm gonna lay it out right now. Um, I like the buttons. Now, mind you, I like Trump, so I'm a little more um, of that oak. Now, I understand like how you wouldn't want them at a conservative rally in Canada, so you can. They're not that damning, eh? But they are obviously off-brand for the Conservative Party of Canada. So
So
the
basically, let me get this right. So these buttons, I guess I'm trying to read them. They don't really offend me too much either, but I get it. I get it that some people wouldn't like that.
they're off-brand for the Conservative Party, as
Right.
far as like these aren't
Right.
from them. They're not
And
their.
so these two liberal staffers snuck these into an event and put them on a merch table. Is that what happened? Or how, what,
They were trying to spread them out. Like that was their plan. Was like, and basically
so
there
did they
was
spread them out? So what happened?
well they their whole. I'm sure that they did. Like I'm pretty sure they did, but like nobody bit as well. Like more or less, the story is that the story is of the story. Like the reporter reporting the fact that these guys were so brazen to like not only do this but then brag about it. So they did do it, but then they got caught doing it, and then obviously the issue becomes like kind of just ever rolling in and of itself. Like the fact that they were just reassigned, that doesn't bode. That this says it's like I think like Lisa Ray was pointing out, like it kind of does lead to like maybe it did come from higher up. At the end of the day, I agree with you. Like those pins, I see those pins. Like I don't think anything of it, but there is a case to be made that like this kind of is outside influence because like there was like a letter put out this week by two retired RCMP officers, and at one point in the letter, like it ties a couple different Liberal Party members into like issues that they have ran afoul of, that weren't addressed and so called like snowballed into other things. And like one of them was like Chinese interference in the last election, which the plan was to like thereby try and bring in American style politics branding of the other party. So it's just kind of like a repeat of the past, and it kind of correlates to that letter. So I agree with you. As your take is similar to mine, where it's like these buttons are nothing, but the media is talking about it like it's a thing. Like they're making it something as well.
Pretty
It's
weak. It's
I
pretty
think it's
weak
still.
scandal. Weak
I
scandal.
agree, but
What
what
else you
I
got?
but one other point that I would point out by this, I think it just shows like as much as the polls show such a commanding lead, if your campaign is willing to get up to weak tactics like that, to me it shows like mild desperation.
Well, we don't. I know, but we don't know much more beyond being a couple of guys having a laugh. I don't know.
A
I don't
couple of
see
guys,
too
they're
much.
liberal, but they work for the liberal campaign.
Yeah, no, but I could still work for a campaign. I could totally see myself doing something that's hilarious or something, doing something dumb like that without being told from the top. I'm just giving these guys the benefit of the doubt.
No,
Anyways, and I'm
and
just saying,
again,
and I also don't. I think it's kind of a nothing story.
I agree. However, the talking heads disagree. And there seems to be, so that's what I'm kind of coming at it with. Like, I'm just seeing what I'm telling you what I'm seeing, right? This isn't, I'm not a
Well,
reporter. I'm just a guy
boring.
who looks at the reports.
Button gate is boring.
Well,
Boring
I
gate.
would say it shows desperation. Like a similar, like this is another stupid story, but there was a Liberal Party member in Brant South, I believe, putting her lawn signs on like houses that had conservative signs for Larry Brock, and like putting a letter like there that says basically like if you didn't ask for this sign, you can like contact this number, like we'll come pick it up or whatever. And you're just like, what kind of a tactic is that? Like, to me, I just kind of scratched my head at that one, being like, you're wasting man hours putting your sign like in the one area that's definitely probably going to remove it, like someone's front lawn with a conservative sign on it. Kind of silly. Would you not? I think that's even sillier than Buttongate.
I don't know. I mean, it's no surprise that like some people who want to win elections make bad decisions. Like, is that
Yeah,
new?
we're all human.
Both ways, right?
We're all
If this
human.
is, but I'm also saying if this is the best that the critics of the Liberal Party have to throw the Liberal Party is doing all right. If this is the worst that we've got to say about what's going on against the Liberals,
Well, if you look at the news, what they're going to tell you is going on is that Trump is still hot on the 51st state. You go to the if you go to the headline, I just went to Global and CTV before we came on here, and from CBC again, credit to them, nothing to do with anything there. So I was like, okay, whatever, it's just arts and culture and stuff. But CTV and Global were both like, yeah, like somebody asked Trump, like, what his take on Canada is, and the lady reiterated, like, he'd still like good trade deals, and he doesn't think they're pulling their weight, and he'd like the. So you're just like, that's the story. That was a question was asked, and she replied the same thing that was said a month ago. So I mean, I think I just think it's not a good thing. Like those two things, yes, they're small or whatever, but like to me, it's just a sign that like whenever whatever we saw with that bump for Carney in the polls, I think it's just more and more like I've been saying of him. Like the more we see of him, the worse it gets. And I think people are getting desperate, like with these
he's
stupid
been
stuff.
edged. He's already as of today, he's been edged out in a number of polls, slight by a slight conservative lead in some things I saw.
Yeah, and those polls too, like we discussed, right? Like you got to really look at the age demographics and the sex of the voter because it's clear there's certain divides. You know,
Well, I
young
did see
men.
something. I saw there's a podcast. Two young ladies. One of them's conservative. One of them's liberal, and they have a podcast where they're trying to, raise women up in politics and whatnot. But they were on a CBC interview, and they were actually breaking down the number of liberal women voting, number of women voting liberal, percentage of women voting conservative, and the percentages of the number of women who find Pierre like distasteful, and it all bodes very poorly for the conservatives for sure. I
Mm-hmm.
guess traditionally women even get out to vote more, but according to these most recent demographics, they seem to like Carney. Well, they like liberals. They said the only real threat that they had that could close the difference is if there's enough faith in Carney's lead that there's a lot of women who would prefer NDP style policies and would vote for drag meat or NDP policies, giving the
That
conservatives.
would be a huge saving grace. I actually saw a former MP at a Pierre rally getting interviewed by Rebel News say the same thing. He's like, "We need the NDP voters to show up is what like really needs to happen," which is true. Like, I didn't think the NDP were going to be as non-existent as they are. Like they kind of just evaporated.
Well, I saw there's, before this French language debate, there's I guess a French, I don't know, I don't speak French, but I saw a thing where Carney and Pierre were on some French speaking television show, but it was only them. And it was like, I guess this television show was like, I don't know, the French Tonight Show, news, entertainment, fun. Like, if you're in the know, you watch this show. And they were on it, and the people were loving it, and but they didn't have anybody else on there. So, I mean, it is kind of this sort of broken down to be a two-party race, it seems.
What they didn't have Francois like Yves Francois Blanchette on there, just Carney and Pierre. You think they
Yeah, I
would have?
think so. Well, maybe he was. I didn't see him, but maybe the clips they showed was on. But it looked to me. Please, anyone in the comments can fact check me, but it looked like they were highlighting these two people.
Well, so tomorrow that's the other big thing people are talking about, that the French debate's tomorrow and then the English debate is Thursday. And supposedly everybody, because the Green Party guy, he's from Montreal, and you have the Bloc fella, and Pierre's French is solid. So, and I'm pretty sure Jagmeet's French is pretty decent from what I gathered. But Carney's is known to be weak. So there's
Well,
cause.
the guys who were presenting this, whatever it is I saw, they had basically indicated that Carney did pretty good. They knew he had rehearsed a lot and well. His answers were shorter, more concise. His French was pretty good, but they know that the bar for him was just not to have any sort of major faux pas or major spill. And all of these guys that seemed pretty objective on the subject, their conclusion was, Pierre did good and was likable more so than they thought, and Carney was, um, he did well enough to not like, he didn't make anything worse. So
Well, it'll be interesting because obviously, as much as we need the young ladies to decide NDP, we also need the Quebecers to side Bloc. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in the debates, because I think since Carney's in the lead, typically in political debates, whoever's in the lead kind of is the main focus of the ire of the candidates. Would you not agree to that? Like, I mean, obviously there's
well,
exceptions.
sure, but I don't know. They seem.
They're also the party that's
I think it,
empowered.
but
So
I think traditionally yes, but I think this is more of a, the ultimate enemy is Trump. So he even looms over this. So all targets are on Trump, and so yeah.
but you see the Bloc and the NDP giving Pierre a hard time. I don't. I don't see them giving him passes, but I don't see them busting his chops personally. That would just be. But again, who knows? Maybe Jagmeet really is working for the Liberals. Maybe.
I don't know. I don't be interesting to see. I don't. I mean, I don't know if I can watch the French debates. It'll be excruciating.
Oh, that's got check the clips written all over it. There's obviously bilingual Canadians who will be on Twitter within the next day of what needs to be heard and what.
Yeah, yeah. I need someone to summarize it for me. That's for sure.
Yeah, we
Like
don't
these
speak.
guys. Yeah, we don't speak. We are not
Sorry.
well.
Sorry.
Yeah, and crazy.
Did
Did you see?
there was another? Sorry, what were you going to point out?
No, no. Go ahead. Carry
There
on.
was another one. I don't know how big of a deal this is, but did you hear about the Liberal MP at the mosque trying to court Muslim voters by accusing Israel of genocide? Which,
Well, I heard there was some where there was a number of members of parliament and right up to Carney where they've said the wrong things about, or the right things, depending on your perspective. but offensive things to some people on Palestine. Is this related to that?
So then essentially the follow up to that was like in a rally in Calgary, there was a heckler regarding the subject to Carney, and he just replied like, "I'm like there's a genocide in Palestine," and Carney replied, "I'm aware. That's why we have an arms embargo." So, I mean, two people talking like me and you right now using the word genocide, or like say we're real mad one way or the other on that, and we use the word genocide. That's two guys talking. But what isn't it a different story when like a prime minister of a country uses the word genocide? Like, isn't it? I think it's a big deal. Like that's like one of those words because like even so, like Benjamin Netanyahu like replied back
Yeah,
like
yeah.
was
He wanted an apology, is
yeah
my
he's like well,
understanding.
take those words back. So it clearly our standing on the international stage, at least towards Israel, is like we haven't said that to them yet. But like it seems like that's what it would seem like. We're like in Israel saying another thing, and then we're campaigning around Canada saying a different thing. Is what it seems like by Benjamin's reaction.
Well, some of the critics of Carney, not critics, the um, well, people, I guess, who understand or just critique politics, critiques of him indicated that he went so long in the private world and behind the scenes where you can behave in one way. And then all of a sudden, when you are a politician, there's a whole other level. And him having little to no experience at that, he is faltered on a number of sort of topics because, for instance, being
Companies can
asked,
pivot. Companies can pivot. You can change, but a politician, yeah. It's sorry to interrupt, but
yeah,
yeah,
but he's even like his the concepts of his offshore accounts and Brookfield and this and that, like when
mm-hmm.
they're doing legal work and legal business within the framework of how it's set up right now. So he's the guy before who's in that business doing legal stuff, even though we don't, it's distasteful to us as a politician, but he then he is personally offended when he's asked about it because he in his mind was operating within the confines of the law, this, that, and the other. Again, I'm
Yeah,
not being his defense, but I'm just saying that's what these people were saying, is that a lot of his where he gets heated makes sense based on the perspective of him operating at that sort of private behind the scenes level for so long, not needing to consider the appearances of these types of things, not under the
that
same scrutiny.
definitely shows like with the issues that he is having seems I would say like 70% of it stems from that. Like he
See,
just doesn't
like
seem to take
Trump
it well.
addressed that. Trump addressed that, like when Hillary said, like, "Oh, he did this and didn't pay his taxes," and his response was like, "Well, you made the rules, so I know how to close the loopholes," right? Like that was his inference, right? And
I'm not
everybody
breaking the law.
laughed.
I just have a like yeah, four
Yeah, yeah,
accountants and
yeah.
two on staff. Yeah.
Exactly. And you were the one who wrote these laws, right? And I'm following them. So Carney needed to address these types of things better than he has. But
Correct.
so people are turning a bit sour. That's for sure.
Well,
But
another
I don't
thing
know if
he
that will
mentioned
translate. Go ahead.
uh,
Sorry.
another thing he mentioned was that Canada. Oh yeah, so basically Carney he was at another press conference and he admitted that the consumer carbon tax failed because it only really impacted like 6% of overall emissions versus I assume the other 84 is coming from industry. Um, which is like great that he admitted that. Like I love someone who can own up to a mistake if that's sincere. Now, according to his book, Changes or Values or whatever, I would like to read his next book, and hopefully it says the opposite. But he just kind of he said that, and then he also just ended with this quick statement. And tell me what you think of this. Also, we need new homes built in a carbon-friendly way, construction with 20% less carbon. Like that's not his exact quote, but more or less like he wants to also help build houses, but then he just quickly throws in a manner that uses 20% less carbon. And you're just kind of like, okay. So again, like I even saw a clip of Stephen Guilbeault today talking about how back when he was in the private sector, he dreamed of a government that had put billions of dollars into climate action, and now our government puts in hundreds of billions of dollars. And again, like I think guys like me and you maybe would be a little bit more on board with that stuff. Like if we saw like, hey, did you hear about that like solar panel company from Regina, or like that e-bike company from Vancouver? Like, you never hear of anything like that. Like, anytime the government of Canada seems to like get involved with some great sounding like opulent plan, it seems to just always boondoggle, or just involve them giving like a real company like Bombardier like actual cash, or like Chrysler like actual
No,
cash.
but the issue with, I mean, you brought it up, was, I mean, that's the main issue in this election is affordability.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as affordable homes, and there never will be. Like, there's too much
Carney didn't
bureaucracy.
even
It's
say affordable. He
impossible.
didn't say affordable.
Yeah,
He said,
no. Yeah, he'll add
yeah.
more. Well, you know how you get 20% less carbon to make things be 20% smaller.
You know what I was thinking? Because he does own that modular home factory. You make things all like on an assembly line using like robots that are efficient, as opposed to like guys out on the job site with like tools and generators.
Well, that's definitely the future for sure.
And that's probably the case he would make. Like, I just kind of heard him say that and saw that, was just like, well, who's got the infrastructure ready to cut carbon? Because obviously, like Franco on the job site, he's got to run the generator. Like, it is what it is. But who? Oh, you have a factory. Huh? Interesting. But
Yeah, I'm not going to speculate that he's so diabolical that he's positioned himself to run the country to sell more
hopes it's all of porta
trailer
potties.
homes. I don't know. That seems a
Hey,
bit
I'm
that
not
seems a
saying that
bit of a
either, but
stretch.
it's similar to like what you were just saying with like, well, what's up with all these shell companies and bank accounts? Like, if you got all this stuff that known to be shady and you can't answer for it, it
But
just
that's what
seems like,
everybody does. That's just what people do that have that much money. Like, it doesn't necessarily paint him with a negative brush. Believe me, I don't like the last 9 years liberal ridiculousness, the climate hysteria, the boondoggles, as you say. I have almost no hope that it'll be much better if the conservatives get in. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I
still
don't
a hard
even know.
fix. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, but you have to give, like, I'm open to Carney being a sleaze bag. It's easy actually to sell me on it, but none of these things are, they're not good enough. Like his own words are good enough. Like him saying, I want to leave 80% of the fossil fuels in the ground, and his whole, stakeholder capitalism and all
Or
these
there will
other,
be a pipeline, and then there won't be a pipeline. So it's like, will there be a pipeline? Well, maybe. Who knows? Like,
well,
yeah.
but he just, I would like that Canada could use its resources to give wealth to its citizens. And he doesn't want that. Fundamentally, it's because he wants to save the, the fictitious disappearing polar bears who have never been doing better, but
Well, and he
everybody
wants
still
the Century
believes there's.
Initiative. He wants 100 million people by 2100. He's a fan
Well,
of that,
that's
right?
that's not just him. There's, yeah, look, Trudeau was all into that as well.
But I
But
think Carney has cabinet ministers or people in his orbit that are on that initiative as well, to say even
yeah,
further.
I've heard about that for years, so it can't be just Carney.
Exactly. No, exactly. It's not one man's plan to make more, to have more people, but yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be
I heard it.
interesting.
Yeah, 100 million people by 2100. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's not. I mean, it'd almost be impossible to happen. That's
if only we
impossible.
if we were all living in stacked pods like Lego
No, no, no.
bricks.
Even forget that. There's that's not even on the table being the issue. The issue is the entire world's population is declining. Where
No,
are they
that
going to get these 100 million people? Like, why? Why are they going to come here to look after old people so they can work in old folks' homes looking after old people and paying exorbitant taxes so they can maintain old people's health care? Who's going to do that? Nobody.
it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. Oh, and
Yeah.
by the way,
And by the way,
Mister
you can't afford
Mister
a
Future Man, I
house.
hope you like winter. And yeah, you
Yeah.
can't afford a
Yeah.
house, and you need two sets of tires on that car that you're
Whoa, whoa,
still.
slow down. Two sets. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, where you're from is still a youngish population and it's booming. And not only is it booming, it's industrializing for the first time and the economy's rocking.
Yeah,
So
true.
you're gonna
That's a good
you're
point.
gonna you're gonna leave there to come to Canada. Okay. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
it's it'll be interesting.
It's going to be more than interesting.
There is, I got a little bit more hope there. Like Pierre brought up a platform policy today against like a legislation against scamming old people,
I
and
like
I
it.
kind of feel like Kramer with Beach, where like Calvin Klein stole his cologne. I kind of, because I've been saying for 2 years now to like all sides of the aisle, like someone needs to run for prime minister and just change everybody's social insurance number and like phone number so that like we can get rid of these scammers. Like if some guy just ran and said, I'm gonna fix scam calls, like they have a shot. Like I'm gonna stop scammers. Like everyone in Canada like doesn't answer their phone and like lives under that. Like I hear it from a lot of different Canadians that like all I get is scam calls. Like so. I mean, it used to just be like your grandma or your uncle when he found the internet and he's put his phone number on weird websites or whatever. But now
Well,
everybody's
well,
involved.
they were talking more about as well, like the like with the onset of this AI technology and voice cloning and
Mhm.
whatnot. And apparently, Pierre wanted to put the onus on these big companies to have the state of the art software to make sure that they're catching these scammers at the source. It sounded like a great promise, but I don't know how you like.
You know what it seems like the issue is, and
Yeah,
this
it's
this
like
just hit me, but
he's
like
also
they're building the infrastructure of tomorrow on a lot of these companies, but they're like kind of throwing to the wayside like the old people like who are just want to go in and talk to a guy. Because like I
well,
still want to go in and talk to a guy. If I can go in and
well,
talk to a guy, that's how I'm handling 100% of my problems. But most companies don't afford you that luxury. And now you got to go online and this and that and yeah. I mean,
oh,
I don't know.
it's they told
I'm
us.
happy he's talking about it.
The thing is, well, sure, it sounds nice. It's probably good to get old people scared, and then they vote for him because well, they won't be able to steal my pension money.
Well, no, but I don't have to worry about my pension going up as long as I can keep my like the money I have. Let me keep that, make that feel safe. That's maybe more valuable to me than a little bit more dole. Maybe
Sure.
I think
Uh,
it's only honey on the
no, no, it's
sandwich.
it's a good it's targeting old people the most.
Yeah, who
So
seem to be voting liberal the most. So that's what I was. What I'm
absolutely, no, it's a good stroke. Good for him. Good for him. But I don't see that being implemented in any significant way that makes any real difference.
Well, and that kind of goes back to me thinking about the debate we were talking about tomorrow night, French, and then the following night, English. People are saying, like, a lot of the Carney supporters are saying, like, debates are meaningless and whatnot. But, like, the case that corollary people are drawing in, because, like, we can agree that the election's going to be decided by, like, I don't know, 4%, 5% of Canadians. You know what I mean? Like, most people have already made their mind up, right? So the corollary between the 2015 election, where the Liberals painted Trudeau as very, very foolish when he was seen by the crowds, he didn't seem as silly. So he kind of became a little bit more likable. And they kind of realized that was a mistake. I think with this debate, there's a chance for Pierre to come out and not look so whatever angry people who don't like him see. Like maybe they'll see us like a little nice part of him. And I also think it might give the nation, especially those bloc voters in Quebec, tomorrow night to see Carney stumble and like maybe not be as solid as they hoped he had been or
Well,
thought he could be.
I'm open to there being, let's hope, of course, as much as I am
So
for sure.
and
But and
agree with
I
you. Pierre wins. I don't see it being glory days either. But yeah,
but Pierre apparently is supposed to be doing the circuit. He's going to be doing some podcasts, and
mm-hmm.
also, there was even talk he was going to do Joe Rogan, but I don't know if that's true. But I did see him do a brief excerpt on some station somewhere about. I guess he has a 6-year-old daughter with special needs, and I saw some of that conversation in that. So, I mean, implying that, he gets it. He'd be the last person to be cutting your grandma's whatever or
Your healthcare. Yeah,
this
and honestly,
program.
I saw that and thought about people who talk about their mother-in-laws who hate him. It was like, just show her this clip. Show her this clip. Like it humanizes him very much so. And like a very empathetic way. I agree with you. Like it is touching. Um, which is hard for a politician to do. So but yeah, it's just like you've been saying as well, like the other side won't see that clip. They're like, I
No, they
wouldn't be
won't
surprised
see
if
that.
AI spliced it together and be like, I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
you
yeah, of course.
babies. Close hospital. Like, whoa.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Easy, Pierre.
Did Pierre
Yeah.
want to eat babies? Who knows?
Yeah,
Like,
it's hard to know.
read this
Hard to know.
article. Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
that's about all the update I had for you with as far as Canadian politics goes from the lens that I've seen, like more or less. Like, I mean, if you've
no,
got
I'm
plenty,
not opposed. No,
there was that way
your
more
commentary
persuasive.
is fine. You've great brought me up to speed, great on the facts, but I'm not criticizing you. I'm just criticizing the facts. Facts are
Yeah,
boring this week. Like it's boring. Like there's no.
it's
Where's
Canadian
the
politics.
ammunition?
Canadian
Where's the
politics.
ammunition? I want to see the clips of Carney in some sort of space robe doing some weird stuff with Klaus Schwab on some grainy, you know,
Like the
grainy
Pope
like
pointing the laser, like you're like, whoa, what's
yeah,
going on?
yeah, some sort of Moloch
Yeah, yeah.
owl
Not gonna
creature in
get
the back.
You're not gonna get that, bro. Like,
Well,
if
that's
anything, like Trump's elections taught us is like it's never coming. You're never gonna get it. Like it's
you know where that stuff is. That's in the
Bert in
our
1961.
it's in the
Like,
same
like it's all gone.
it's in the same manila envelope as the RFK files.
hmm Yeah, it'll be. Trump's been interesting lately, and China seems to be like pretty antagonistic. Like back, they seem to be fighting back from
Yeah,
what I've
like
seen.
we said before, we hypothesized that this ultimately is a non slap fight war between the USA and China, and USA is like on its way down, and China's on its way up, and they're at I think it's called a Thucydides trap or whatever. Doesn't matter.
Like, yeah, the empire's rising and falling, the
Yeah, and
Dutch and the
falling, and
English,
they got to
yeah,
fight.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
England, America. Yeah.
yeah, and that's where they're at. And this is Trump's taking them on head on and saying it's got to be radical, and we're making big changes. So, and then the thing is, you go and try to research this, and I can find 100 credible sources telling me that China is literally 1 minute away from crumbling, and its infrastructure is put together with tape, and
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 corn.
yeah, and corn, and then you've got the population is has been overestimated by a third for way too long, and then you also you go and find another equally convincing sources saying that they're building rocket ships to the moon, and their AI technology can be used with a Duracell battery, and all the other AIs need hydroelectric dams providing gigawatts, zigawatts of power, and they're ahead of us in everything. And then you look, and America seems to be falling apart, and Canada seems to be falling apart, its infrastructure, and that you see those glistening cities in the east. I don't know. It's hard to
But
know.
you mean that shot of like of Saigon from the bay with all those beautiful towers and the nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we've all seen that shot. There's no birds in China. Fun fact.
All birds aren't
Why is
real.
there
Don't
no
org.
birds? Why is there no birds?
The birds
Like
aren't real. That's the why.
birds
Anywhere.
aren't.
Have you not?
Yeah.
Have you ever? You should check that out. Birds aren't real.
Well,
Dot
I've heard of
org.
that. I've heard of
Yeah.
it. Um, yeah. No, it's you're right. You can get whatever you want. You can get whatever you want. And I think what the more or less the real truth of it, the matter between what you just said, is like not everybody's kind of not doing that great right now.
Yes, I think that is the truth. And it's, I guess, like we said before, it will be who can handle the pain longer, China or US of A. And I would bargain based on just this one statistic, like America is like consumes like 40% of the world's stuff. Like that's such a big like
Yeah.
it's
Oh, and I,
crazy.
I was listening to Meet Kevin right before we came on, and he brought up something that I thought was very interesting. He's like even like these like he's like America can't build microchips here like worth it in whatever. But he's like even like that 5 cent microchip that's in like the button on your car window. He's like we can't build that. Like and we can't make it for 5 cents. So he's like, we have, like, they're in no position to like make all the little components. It's like, yes, the Boeings are made in wherever in Atlanta or whatever. I don't know where they're made. I think it's, anyways, I think it might be Atlanta, but the parts all come from China. Like a lot of the little parts come from China. Sure, there's some that maybe come from the States, and maybe some come from Europe, but so it's like they're just not really in a position. So that's the real question. So I think that might like kind of reformat things a little bit. Like right now we're looking at it like, oh, it's impossible. But who knows? Like maybe in 10 years, like the Maytag repairman makes a comeback. And like we're just that society that like repurposes stuff and like, oh, give me one of those old things, like I can make it.
I don't know. I see a more realistic thing is that,
Obviously, well, I'm
yeah,
just spitballing
like
here. Like obviously I'm some
for sure. Well, that I
steampunk
mean,
technical future, but
that's
like
that's that's one of the main criticisms of Trump is they're like, oh, the kind of change he's talking about, you can't do fast. So like that's like a criticism. So we don't do it. Is that what it is? Like
no,
because
but
you
the
can't do
argument
it
was like if
fast.
you're gonna go to like war with China, like you should make sure your Kevin's point was like you should make sure you're like armed first. Like we don't even
But
have.
do you honestly think that they didn't think that through? Did you honestly think?
Whoa, whoa, whoa! I commented on a me Kevin video talking about
No,
like
I'm not.
the.
I'm not saying
I,
you. I'm
I,
not
I,
saying you, but
I'm not pounding the Trump Kool-Aid back as much as I was because I'm not super fan of the Pentagon budget and the war and the Gulf. But that neither here nor there. I agree with you. Like obviously, Kudlow and Bassett have you know thought out like the 10, 30 different repercussions and things that could happen and variables. But like I think exactly like you're saying, like they're grabbing the tiger by the head and just addressing the tiger in the room, which is China. And obviously nobody wants a kinetic war. So let's work the trade deal out so it works out a little bit better for America and hopefully comes to a head. Did you see the videos today of all the people in China? At least maybe they've been out for a while, but I saw a bunch of them today showing like the luxury brands in the States and how they're all like made here and like how they're all like cheap and like they're garbage and like they cost like $30. You can buy this Louis Vuitton purse or whatever. And like it was almost like they were trying to hurt like hurt the American economy. And I don't know if all those brands are American. I think a lot of them are European, but it was kind of like a little tactic. It almost seemed like because you there's a point to be made that like if the Communist Party of China doesn't want your video or your message, so the theme of all these videos to like leave China, they're going to do a good job clamping down and keeping it, you know what I mean, from spreading for the most part. Like obviously stuff gets out, but like they seem to like let this out no problem is what I'm saying. So it kind of is like seemed like a subtle little way of like just discrediting America and being like, you guys are spending 30 grand on this purse, like you can buy it for $1,000 here if you want, and just making fun of everybody. But also, I don't know. That didn't bode well. Like it doesn't make you want to go out and spend 30 grand on a purse. Not saying that I want to do that or you want to do that, but the economy needs people to spend 30 grand on a purse.
well, I don't know. This affordability, for instance, I can't remember. It was the town, let's say Cochrane, doesn't really matter. Northern Ontario town had like 1,500. Again, doesn't matter. This is all directionally true. Had a bunch of lots serviced. You could get them for like $1,000 or $1 or $100 or what didn't matter. The point of the story was, though, even there with the free service lot from the town, they estimated that like they were basically on 1,000 square foot house. Something like to construct the thing was going to be like $240,000. So in a town in north, no job prospects, no nothing. And this was even a while back, halfway through the pandemic. So 3 years ago's money. They were touting like what a great opportunity to come. So there you are with your $240,000 mortgage, 1,000 square foot
That rural
retirement
cock.
bungalow in rural northern Ontario. Like, how is that affordable? Like, and that would be the best case scenario. Like, nobody's making any money, and you made the smallest living accommodation imaginable. And it was
Yeah, and by the
still,
way, we just raised carbon tax on the gas. You need to drive everywhere to get everything.
yeah, yeah. And, so your house, even 200,000, you have 50 down, whatever. It's never that. So then there's more on top. That would be the base. So let's call it 300,000. So then even that financed at today's rates, even good rates, like $1,500 a month just for the 1,000 square feet of space. taxes, insurance,
Maintenance.
22, 23 maintenance and utilities, whatever. 23, 24, $2,300 a month. That's your affordable solution to live there. So what's your before tax money to pay for that?
And that's just that. No, and that's exactly it. Like everything's become unobtainium.
Titanium, exactly. So I do find it interesting that when you ask the pundits and you ask um, like the AIs to list the main concerns, affordability always comes to the top. Yet most of the stories seem to just be talking about Trump. So it almost seems like it's like a look over here, it's like look over here. Don't be looking over there. Don't be looking at this. I mean, I know you're all concerned about affordability, but
Don't look down at
ooh,
your dinner plate that's half full compared to 3 years ago.
Trump,
Like
Trump,
Trump
ooh,
is gonna kill us all
tariffs,
with jobs.
tariffs, ooh. You
Yeah, it's
see,
wild.
there was a story came out today where a newspaper in Japan indicated that Honda was going to like
Yes,
pack up
move
shop and head
production.
to, and then 20 minutes later, there was a press release by Doug Ford saying, I was literally just eating soup with the president of Honda Canada, and we're like the best friends, and that's definitely not happening. So I don't know, I just thought it's, something's going on there.
Well, it sounds like both political sides are hearing what they need to hear from the company. So the Americans are being told what they want to hear, and Doug Ford's being told what he wants to hear.
Yeah,
That sounds like business as usual to me.
sure.
But if it is true, which I would assume it actually is true, like it's just another sign, like I was saying earlier with the Gilbo stuff. It's like we're just like you just hear that sucking sound. Just everything's leaving Canada. Like nobody's coming in, nobody's investing a dollar, and nobody in their right mind would unless they knew there was like a 10-year government contract in stone, like to for whatever your thing was, which is just no way to run an economy, especially when you're trying to compete with like the free market juggernaut of the world right next door.
Well, everyone would say that the uncertainty that Trump's got going on is making it impossible to invest there. But I
And
mean, yeah, I think the only certainty is you better invest in the States or else,
yeah,
kind of.
I couldn't agree with you more. But you and I have our heads on straight. I could see my Trump terrified father saying something like that. Like, yeah, like there are people who are just, you're right. It's Orange Man bad, like it's been for the last 10 years, if you pay attention to American politics at all. And they're really hoping it catches on up here. And as much as you think those pins are bunk and laughable, they are. But it's in that vein where it's like that's all the liberals have because affordability is not honest to God. It's like the world's a crazy place. So what's happened in the last 10 years isn't 100% Trudeau's fault or the liberals' fault, but their reactions to a lot of things added insult to injury. So I mean, Carney owned up to the carbon tax, doing nothing to the consumer. Now, granted, that's not like
Yeah, but I mean, you could argue that, that was for 2 years, axe the tax. Like Carney took Pierre's legs out from under him, like with that move.
on many policies.
Like, yeah, like obliterated pretty much entirely that his persona almost at that moment.
But I think like we talked about on here way more, way further back about how when this first happened and we were making fun of it, like how's Pierre going to react? I think I like the only thing that Pierre could do that I would like more than what he's already doing would be go on Joe Rogan. Like I think he's
That'd
moved
be
in a good
pretty
direction.
sick.
And if he went on Rogan, he'd touch a lot of those younger voters that may or may not vote, but maybe now will because you know you were you sound like a human being on Rogan. The other guy sounds like my grandpa's friend. So, I don't know. It's not gonna hurt. Like going on Rogan is not gonna hurt. If Mark
Yeah.
Carney went on Rogan, I don't think it would. I think it would hurt. Like, dude, man, like, what's up with these bank accounts in the Caymans, bro? Like, what's up with these bank accounts, man? Like, people are saying You got shell companies, bro. Like, I don't think he could just he's got skeletons. Where I think Pierre's, he's human. I'm sure he's got problems, but like his he's been in public life for over a decade, and like if there was issues, they would have come out. I assume. Not saying he's flawless. If something comes
Yeah,
out,
I mean, if anything, he seems like kind of like a little bit of a straight-laced Poindexter, more than he
yeah.
seems like a scoundrel. He
Well,
certainly doesn't seem scary.
the conservatives tend to go that way. Like Andrew Scheer was way more dweeby. Speaking of
Like
Andrew
Dweeboff,
Scheer, I
Andrew,
saw
Pierre, yeah, Dweeboff.
there was a funny Andrew Scheer video. Like it was on his own YouTube page. It came up on my YouTube recommended. It was like I don't know. I'm gonna share it with you right now. It was honestly like the coolest I've ever seen Andrew Scheer. Like where was this Andrew Scheer during the election? Kind of like a funny guy.
We locked the laddie down. You guys aren't texting yet, are you? I thought this was over, man. You said you were out. You were telling me how terrible the last 10 years were. As a friend, I barely even recognize you anymore. You lost your house. They drained your bank account. You maxed out 3 credit cards. You couldn't even afford groceries. And the drugs, man. And we're not talking about half a joint, half the kids go to sleep to take the edge off the day. We're talking meth. I mean, that's not you. Oh, they've changed. Yeah, right. Of course they're going to say that. They're going to say anything they think you want to hear. And then guaranteed, within a month, it's going to be right back to the same old stuff. Guaranteed, they're going to be asking you for money again. What about all those foreign students living in the basement? And that weird arrangement with that guy from Burnaby for 2 years? What was that about? And if you think that this is going to be any different than the last 10 years, it's not. This is who they are. Don't be fooled. It's up to you, man. Offshore tax havens? Dude, Bermuda.
Good.
I thought it was. Yeah, I was like, where was that shit?
Yeah, but who, like, if you hadn't told me that was Andrew Scheer, I wouldn't even, like, if I was just scrolling through, I wouldn't even recognize that. So he's going to even recognize Andrew Scheer.
Well, we brought this up under the
Other
auspice
than
of
dorks.
Pierre's a dork, and so I was saying, well, yes, but so Scheer, and I think the Conservative Party leans towards dorks because they're cleaner. Like you don't have to worry about that stuff typically. No, but I will say, good. That was on like a higher speed. I think it was at 1.5, but I was impressed with it. Like as far as like political humor goes, I was like, that's pretty good for like
That was pretty good.
theme of the ex-girlfriend or partner or whatever, and you didn't see the person holding the phone, so it could have been girl or boy, but yeah,
Yeah.
good for sure.
Like, dude, come on. Yeah. Whoa.
And that weird
Yeah, that's pretty
arrangement
funny.
with that guy in BC, like what's going on?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say. I did think that Trump, he had his physical. I don't know if you heard, but he commented that his soul was his he had a good soul. The doctor had said he was in good health and a good soul. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's funny. That reminds me of when during the elections, you remember the witches saying that they're trying to cast spells on Trump, but there's some sort of shield. He has like a protection, so the witches couldn't cast their spells on him.
Yeah.
You're just like, I guess maybe the witches are right. Maybe he does have like a shield from God or something.
I like it. So, but I don't know. I think that's kind of funny. Like it points to the like
Jovialness. Oh,
yeah,
man.
well, just the comedy. It's like he's
Obviously, it's obviously hyperbole. Nobody can be the own judger of that, but it's just funny. Like, but it's yeah, and it's goofy in like a silly kind of. It's just a ha-ha kind of way. And for a guy in that position, he's really got to walk the tightrope of like what he says to be misconstrued, and you can't really take that the wrong way. So that's funny.
well, everybody's forgotten how people talk. That's the problem. He
Everyone's
talks
autistic. And you know
talks
what
like
he's
a
talking
normal talks like a normal person in my mind, like a bunch of dudes sitting around. How was your hospital checkup, Adrian? Oh, not bad. Great soul or
Got some
something.
Robitussin. I'm gonna clean out the soul. Yeah. Well, should we tell everyone about Thursday night and hopefully this is up?
I have to work Thursday. I don't think I'll be able to be in time for that. So no, this is not the time to tell them.
Okay.
We'll have to do a recap. We could join late and be right at the end.
Probably better the recap anyways. We were going to try and live stream the debates, but
don't even know how to do the technology.
That was the fun part.
I think that's all we have for tonight. I think we're no further ahead. They're apparently neck and neck. Pierre's pulled ahead a touch. There's hope. There's no hope. Yeah. All the good ones.
Well, the rallies say there's hope. There was the 2 rallies then the other day in Waterloo and Windsor the other day, both kind of left-leaning places, and they were decently sized for Pierre. So, I mean, and the people being interviewed seem to have hope. So, maybe all you got is hope. You know, it's all you can ask for. Bye, everybody.
Peace out.
Wow!